Ooh, welcome to Around the Blockchain. Today we're talking about Rick and Morty creator, new NFT dropped 0 to 15 ETH in seconds, and also bipartisan support for crypto. What is that going to mean for you? What is that going to mean for our Bitcoin bags? And we're going to have a wonderful topic of discussion there with your little Q&A. So if you want to ask any questions to the past guests that we have here, put it in the chat. We're going to, if it's a good question, we'll ask it. If not, maybe on the next episode. But we're going to go ahead and start on the top right. We have Caleb Franzen holding it down, always bringing some very, very smart insight. You never know what he's going to come up with. Then on the bottom right, maybe Satoshi shows up. We had Michael Saylor yesterday, maybe Satoshi today. Keep your fingers crossed. I know a way that can make him more likely to appear, and that is for you to hit the like button. Go ahead, hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything. Just go ahead and click that. It'll really help the odds of he popping up, or she. And then on the bottom left, we have Megbzk holding it down from north of the border. Maybe you'll see her drinking some maple syrup later. And then on the top left, we have Ben Armstrong. Ben, what did you think of Michael being on yesterday?
Man, that was the best segment we've ever had. I was super excited about it. And today we got Satoshi on. So who knows? Like maybe we'll see some ashes or something like that. Maybe an urn, something like that.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, maybe CI's in the chat. Who knows? All right.
Hey, it gives you a new idea of play to earn.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, let's get right into the Rick and Morty creator, Justin Roiland. Here's Rick and Morty. If you're not familiar, it's the weird guy with the blue hair that's always drooling, and then the wacky grandson, who maybe not so bright, winner of 2 primetime Emmys. I was surprised to see, but they just released Art Gobblers, and you can see a little similarities. Justin Roiland does the voice work and the artistic. He does a lot of the drawing and the character creation there, so you can see a little bit of an inspiration here. A free mint, and then immediately essentially shot up to 15 ETH. I think the floor right now, 14.9. It was 13.5 just 10 minutes ago. An hour before that, it was 12. So we're seeing a lot of fluctuation now. Meg, just, a little bit of market cycles. We were talking beforehand. Sometimes you find yourself, you get caught up in the FOMO. You got a little bit of a gambler's heart in you. So use your brain, not your heart here. It was 15 ETH last night. It retraced a little to the 11, 12, and now it's back up to 15. For the person who's feeling FOMO, what's just some sound advice you would give that person?
I mean, these are just revealing. So from watching the NFT space, what I noticed the most is that once they reveal, usually they continue a little bit, but then we'll have that big dump off. So I just kind of hang tight and watch and see what happens before jumping into something like this. This is a very interesting project, though, to me. So, I mean, it was a free mint. And is this going to be kind of the beginning of those free mints? I'm wondering if that is due to security laws and the SEC and people wanting to avoid that when regulations really come down. So, I mean, I do like this project. I didn't hear about this project as early as I thought I would have. I mean, there's some really big creators and influencers in this space who obviously did get on the whitelist, didn't share the whitelist. It is a big controversy on Twitter right now regarding the initial influencer pumping and dumping, essentially. But I mean, we also have to remember people always have something to say if they didn't get in regardless. So no shame selling here. I think that's awesome. If you're making money in this space, good for you. But yeah, I think this is a neat project, but I would just kind of hold off, especially because of the market that we're in right now, and just wait and see what happens. And if it's something you want to jump into and you feel it's the right time, then hey, do what you want to do.
Yeah, it's your ETH. Spin it how you like. You brought up a good point. There's a spike of activity right at a reveal, and then there's a huge dump. Typically, a lot of times what happens is the people, the collectors coming in trying to snipe rares. Maybe people trying to consolidate. Maybe just sweeping floors. But to Meg's point, typically there's a dump afterwards.
This one might sustain a little bit too, though, DZ, just because you do need to hold one of these in this project along with one of their pages in order to continue to mint and create this art for this burning art gallery per se. So they are rewarding the early holders of this project, it seems. So, that might be another reason that this price does sustain a little bit.
All right. Now, you bring up a good point. Yeah, there's 2,000 out now. It will scale to 10K. They're going to slowly release the next 8. Now, Ben, I want to talk to you more about the content creation side of this, because Rick and Morty, very, very popular cartoon. They had the power to bring Szechuan sauce back to McDonald's. That's how powerful this cartoon is. So he obviously didn't need to do a decentralized blockchain method of getting his content out. Anybody would have answered the phone, HBO, Netflix, you name it. So why do you think he chose the blockchain to release something like this?
Well, I mean, blockchain's forever. Am I right?
Mm.
And I think that when you release something like this and you do it as a free mint, I mean,
wait, you said blockchain is forever. Does that mean you're not going to share your Netflix password with me forever?
I've never given my Netflix password out. I know better than that. I watch too much Netflix. I can't have somebody logged in the same time I am. So,
okay. And plus, they screw up your feed.
Yeah, but I did give you a free subscription to my OnlyFans. So,
and
yeah,
it's bookmarked. It stays bookmarked.
It's bookmarked. Yeah. So look, I think the point here is that how much are people talking about this guy right now? A lot. This is the creator of Rick and Morty. Is that correct?
Yeah, his co-creator, him and Dan Harmon.
I have no idea who this guy is before yesterday. You know what I mean? So look how much publicity he's getting from a free mint. Obviously it cost them, some money to make the art and stuff like that, but I'm sure he's got a lot of connections. And so it probably wasn't too expensive, and everybody's talking about him, and now he's got this project out there running wild. I think right now, everybody's obsessed with these free projects and royalty-free projects and stuff like that. This is just evidence of the bear market. This stuff isn't going to continue once the hype cycle is back. I think we'll see everything kind of back to normal, but I think it's just a PR play. I think it's purely what it is.
All right. Caleb, Meg brought up the good point. You're going to need to hold this NFT to take part in this ecosystem. They're going to drop the Goo token, and then after Goo, you're going to get pages. But essentially, these NFTs, they call it digest, but you can curate content inside of the NFT. They call it digesting in their belly, but it's essentially an NFT holding content. Now, I believe, you probably agree with the future of blockchain. Royalties, all that is just perfectly suited for the blockchain. We don't know when that will roll out, but we do think it eventually will roll out. This seems to be a good step in the right direction, but is he too far ahead of the curve? Is he right on time? How do you think this is going to play off in the long run?
That's a really good question. And, I think I'll just leverage comments from Ben and Meg, because I think, both of them highlighted how this is kind of a sign of the times, if you will, to have something like this come out during kind of the trenches of a bear market, right? And, this doesn't necessarily seem like something that would happen back in November or October of 2021, but is really just kind of coming to steam right now. And so, I wasn't even aware of this project or of the creator, similar to what Ben said also, right? So if this is somewhat of a PR or publicity play, it's probably paying off from that standpoint. I guess my only question is, how do I short the Goo coin?
Yeah. All right. That's a good question. Well, we will see. I mean, hey, maybe KuCoin will throw that trading pair up. Who knows? All right. Now, Meg, there's a little bit of criticism that this drop did receive. We mentioned that it was a free whitelist, but there's some people, I don't want to say maybe jealous isn't the right word, or envious is even the right word, but there's criticism how people are able to just flip this into 15 ETH, and it kind of went to a who's cabal of NFT people. I wasn't on the list. Don't throw your eggs at me. But do you think it's fair to throw criticism for a project to select influencers for free NFTs? I mean, how do you land on that? Is it scammy, or is it just part of doing business for advertising?
So there's a few different sides to this. So I don't think that having or hiring influencers is the wrong thing to do. I don't think allowing them the whitelist is the wrong thing to do. You guys, we are in 2022, and it is marketing. It's how you market. People are online. We need these influencers for projects. I really do feel that way. However, I do think that influencers need to be disclosing if they are paid for a project. Now, there's also, and even when it comes to a whitelist, possibly even a whitelist. Now, with these NFT influencers, and I'm talking some of the really big names on Twitter, a few of them with this project, they did tweet out a few times before selling. So again, no shame to people for selling, but there is that fine line of doing it intentionally before you sell your NFT to make a bigger bag, and just hanging on to it, maybe believing in the project, using the whitelist, and maybe sharing with your community that, hey, you did get this. Like, just being upfront, I think, is always your best bet.
All right,
but
now
there is a lot of controversy out there right now, and
a lot of controversy for sure. Now, Caleb, will this controversy ever end? I mean, are they always going to receive, hate, maybe a strong word, but criticism for flipping NFTs? I mean, is there ever going to be a day where this is accepted and people won't want to throw the proverbial tomato their way?
I think it kind of goes back to that classic saying, and it's funny because we were talking about poker a little bit before we started the show, and it's like, if you're looking around the table and you don't know who the sucker is, it's you, right? And so I think for a lot of people, right, they kind of get some of that sentiment, and I think that's where a lot of the disdain comes from when you get these larger accounts kind of pumping liquidity and then using it to exit out. And so whether that's through NFTs or crypto tokens or penny stocks, no one likes that, right? And I mean, it's essentially illegal depending on securities laws. And so, in my opinion, that's not something that's going to go away, because I think the allure or promise or incentive of making money, especially for NFTs, is likely going to trump something like early stage community building. I think it's important, like if we just think about community building overall and communities as a whole, I think it's really hard to get people on board with building a community. But at the end of the day, everyone wants to be a part of a proven community, right? So at the early stage of these crypto projects, I'm not surprised to see such fluctuations in value like this, because the hype begins to fade as people realize, hey, there's all this work to be done to build this community, right? And so over time, that's going to be a difficult thing to maintain.
All right. They always say, market cap is easy to pump, but a community, that's a lot harder to pump. Now, Ben Armstrong, Caleb brought up poker. I kind of want to talk. I'm sure people looked at BitBoy like, oh, this is clearly the sucker at the table. Look at this YouTuber. Those who don't know, the recent World Series of Poker, Ben made it multiple days, chip leader for a brief period. It almost made it to the final table. So about persevering, about sticking through it. And they said the same thing about the YouTube channel. They said, this isn't going to make it. This doesn't have years ahead of it. This is going to crash and burn soon. Well, this NFT project has a 10-year roadmap. Is it realistic for an IP to say we are going to be around 10 years from now?
No, I don't.
What about the channel?
I don't think so.
What about this channel?
Okay, I wasn't the first person who started a YouTube channel. I wasn't in the first year of YouTube channels.
Good point.
I wasn't in the first year of crypto YouTubers. There was an entire cycle of crypto YouTubers from 2012 all the way through 2017, more than that. There were 2 cycles of YouTubers already in crypto that had proven a model that works. I think right now, when you're looking at NFTs, they've basically been around for 2 years. They've been very popular for 1 year. And for you to do a free mint and to assume that these communities are going to stick around, look at CryptoPunks. CryptoPunks has been going by the wayside. You know what I mean? So when you really think about that, in my opinion, I think it's crazy to think that this community is going to be around for 10 more years. I think it's a way to get people to buy in for the long term. But guys, generative trait NFTs are not going to be the future of NFTs. There's no question about that. Like this cycle that we saw where this was all we were talking about, like it's not going to be the same in the next cycle. Just like if you go back to the early altcoins, most of the early altcoins were meme coins or were joke coins or you had your Feather coin and you had Litecoin back then, which made it. So you have some. You had Feather coin, you had Peer coin, you had Name coin, you had Dogecoin, you had Pizza coin, you had Made Safe coin. You had all these coins early on. But even if you look at some of the ones that made it, like Dark coin, right? Well, Dark coin ends up becoming Dash down the road. It's got to totally rebrand. If you go back and look at the first cycle of altcoins, almost nothing still exists. And so to look at something that's such a cutting edge technology and say, oh yeah, like we're definitely going to be around and this is going to be popular 10 years from now, that's asinine in my opinion. I mean, the YouTube compared to YouTube is not applicable because this model has been proven to work. We haven't seen a free mint model proven to work. So it's ballsy. You got to give them that. But do I think in 10 years this is going to be still operating? They're going to meet that roadmap? No. Nobody.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. It's a pioneering, road that they are traveling. So that
There's nothing
roadmap is
personal
much
towards them.
less. Yeah,
Nothing personal towards them. Nothing personal towards this. I'd say it's about anybody who did a free mint had a 10-year roadmap.
Yeah, good points. All right, we have a Q&A. First off, Jay Ford, I'm going to ask this to you, Meg. What do you think of these mining Bitcoin companies collapsing like Argo? Just brief thoughts. What do you think about these collapsing mine? Should be worried? Nothing burger. It's, any thoughts on centralization?
You know what? I don't have an answer for this question. Mining's definitely not my area, DZ, whatsoever. So I'm not going to try and BS my way through this one.
I respect
I don't really
that.
have too many thoughts on it,
I will
to be
say
honest.
it is going to lead to centralization. I wouldn't start screaming that the sky is falling just yet. All right, Ben, when will altcoins decouple from the Bitcoin cycle? This is from Eric Carlson. Thank you.
Eric Carlson. Thank you, Eric. Would this be a better question for Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, no. He's, maybe it's like a Michael Saylor Maxi approach. You can't trust his answer.
Well, he hasn't broke character yet. Here's the thing. Altcoins, in my opinion, will decouple for sure. But when is it going to happen? It's going to take one thing and one thing only. One coin is going to have to pass Bitcoin. Once an altcoin passes Bitcoin in market cap, that's going to give strength and confidence to investors in altcoins that they're not going to necessarily have to wait for Bitcoin to see their moves. And the merge sets Ethereum up perfectly for this. Obviously, Ethereum is the one that will do it next. If you look at Ethereum compared to Bitcoin, I say this all the time, Ethereum percentage-wise is drastically closer to Bitcoin than anything else is to Ethereum. I put out a tweet yesterday on elon.com. No.
X.com. Wait. No.
Twitter.com.
Yes.
Is where I put that tweet at. And I basically said, I think there are 3 coins that are poised to pass Bitcoin at some point. One that's kind of a long shot. Ethereum is going to be first. It's going to be the cycle. XRP has the potential to do it. When you look at the world banking system compared to a store of value total market cap, if the case goes the way they want it to go and the banks really start using it, it's going to have a massive, massive, massive pump. I think eventually, if you look at the banking system compared to people that want to store value, I think there's more money there. So I think there is potential for that to go past Bitcoin, as well as, obviously, I've said I believe Cardano would pass Ethereum at some point. So because of 6 to 10 years away, because of that, then I've got to stand strong and say that means Cardano would also, or ADA would also pass Bitcoin. A long shot is Binance Coin. I think it depends on some world regulation stuff. But I think if you look at the biggest exchange in crypto, especially if FTX ends up taking a few big hits, and
the Twitter integration is very huge too.
What's that?
The possible Twitter integration is very huge as well.
Absolutely. You got Binance who put $500 million into Twitter. So I didn't even think of that, DZ. You just taught me something.
I love Binance Smart Chain. I mean, think how smooth Binance Smart Chain is. So it'd be a
well, it's
marriage.
the number one.
I'd much rather transact in that than Doge.
Great.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. All right, last Q&A. This is for Caleb. Here we go. All right, so let me paint a picture. When there's a hype cycle and there's a bull market, there's people who say, I think we're going to go even higher. As the bear market settles in, the people come after the people with the moonshot targets. Even if you say, I paint out 3 scenarios. This person says 3. I think it's unlikely. This person says 150. I think it's more likely. Someone else says 90. I think that's less likely. People are going to remember the 300. They're going to remember the thumbnail. They're going to remember. So my question to you, Caleb, should we remember the channels that heavily fudded at the bottom when we do eventually bounce?
For sure. I think, and look, admittedly, I was someone who last year was thinking that we were going to blast through 70,000 and extend closer to 100K, right? And so, I mean, I think a lot of people were kind of guilty of that. And so, at the same time, if people are overly, the game of finance and investing is extremely difficult, because if you have just a 60% correctness rate, you're like one of the best traders, and so you're going to be wrong so often, right? And this is not even just in crypto. It's in, like, you see this in hedge fund managers, etc. Right? It's like 90% of hedge funds underperform the S&P 500 over a 10-year period. And so, the ability to time the market is extremely impossible, right? At least on a long-term consistent basis. And so, holding people accountable, I think, is really important, especially if they're not someone who's able to, critically think about what their missteps were, what their misdiagnosis was at the time. So I think one thing that I've always said is it's always easy, or not it's always easy, but it's easy to always be a bear or it's easy to always be a bull. Having objective, nuanced, flexible opinions is the hardest thing to do in the world of finance. So, my recommendation is find people who are constantly willing to critique and change their own minds. So
that's a good point, and I can think of people on both sides. Caleb, just real quick, which is worse for the average consumer?
I think selling the lows is probably worse for the average consumer, just because or for the average investor, I should say.
I guess not buying the lows potentially also equally as bad. Meg, same question. Yeah. What is worse? Someone that tells you to, buy more at the top, or someone that says don't buy more when it's at the bottom?
Both. Definitely both.
If you had to choose, you're in Vegas, you must choose. You got to put your chips in one side here.
Buying the top.
Okay. Ben, real quick, what's your 2 cents on that?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say because they're usually not the same people. You have your people that are permanently bullish. I have a bullish bias. People know that. We've been bearish in the bear market because it's a bear market, but my bullish is bias. So I'm, usually more likely to believe that it's going to be going up when things are going up. My trades work better at that time. Mm-hmm. Once we get close to a bottom, it kind of sucks. It feels heavy. You don't like it, but obviously we still do believe there is a lower bottom. I think here's, the biggest lesson that I learned in the last bull market for sure was don't say everything unequivocally. I unequivocally believe Bitcoin was going to $100,000. I believed it with everything in my fiber of my being, at least $100,000. But it didn't happen. So the belief alone, even if it's based off of research and numbers and all this stuff, it's not enough to get you there. So I think what you really have to do is you have to listen to the people who are trying to give you a more balanced plan. So what we've been telling people is, hey, I still believe the bottom is not in, but let's go ahead and start dollar cost averaging. Let's go ahead and start getting some exposure at these lower numbers. Because if you miss this time, my gosh, you're going to be kicking yourself down the road. Yes, it could go lower. And yes, your investment could go down from here. But you're going to kick yourself a lot more if you don't make any investments at these lower numbers in case the bottom is in. But also, we still have money on the sidelines, 30 to 40%, because we believe the bottom's not in. So you got to really take part of both. So really, if I were to go back in the last bull run and I were to redo what I would have been telling people, which, guys, if you didn't know, we get crushed by the bear market because we only took 20% of profits from the bull market. So there you go. How stupid am I?
Which ended up being right in the wrong. The long run, it was the right decision. Still vilified. Just wanted to say that it frustrates me.
Of course. But we've lived this. We lived doing the wrong thing. So going back, what I wish I would tell everybody is the same thing I would tell myself is, hey, let's take more money off the table and let's not project ourselves of what's the most possible money we can possibly make. Let's learn to be happy and content with the profits that we made, and let's pull some of those and let's still keep some on the market. I think that would have been definitely a better way.
My 2 cents, I think it's coin dependent. If you told someone to buy the top of Bitcoin, it's really not that bad. You can still show up to Thanksgiving. They're not going to throw hot gravy on your face. However, if you told them to buy a gaming token or some very speculative 800, just change your last name and find a new family. All right, let's talk about bipartisan crypto. Shout out to Steppen. I don't know what all right. Real quick, we have the headline right here. Over 50% of Democrat and Republican voters agree crypto is the future of finance. It was 59% of Democrats, 51% of Republicans. So the left has a slight edge there. This was conducted by the Harris poll. Over 2,000 adults. This was taken October 6th through the 11th. And they also show that 1 in 4 Americans feel that rising prices have increased their curiosity when it comes to crypto assets. Now, Caleb, I keep harping on, eventually we'll get to the point where Bitcoin is seen as a hedge against inflation. Well, now a full quarter, 1 out of 4 Americans says inflation has increased their curiosity for crypto. Is this that first domino we were waiting for? And what can you expect in the next coming years? Is this rate going to rise dramatically, or is this still going to be a slow and steady approach eventually 1 and 3, eventually 1 and 2?
Well, I think this is, much later on than just the first domino, right? You could argue that the first domino to fall was, just over 14 years ago when Satoshi published. Thankfully, he's in our presence right now, but published, the Bitcoin white paper. And so I think as Americans start to be continue to be confronted with historic levels of inflation and questioning how did we hear, whether it's, from the Ukraine supply bottlenecks, from fiscal policy, monetary policy, whatever the case is, whatever the justification is, people are looking to alternative currencies, if you will, or monetary networks in order to understand, well, what's happening over here, right? And so we've had the big boom in Bitcoin and crypto. I mean, it's obviously no secret. And I think people are a little bit more curious about a monetary network with a known programmatic, fixed, and uncensored monetary policy. And so from that perspective, this is a great thing to see. I think you said it's a quarter of Americans are citing inflation as their curiosity. And so, we live in a representative democracy. And so, as people continue to get onboarded into the overall crypto space, hopefully this is going to get reflected in politics. So this is a good sign, in my opinion, for sure.
Okay. All right. Now, Ben, this is going to be trying to take you down a road here. It is said by people much smarter than me that when the left and right agree, you should actually be worried. It's when they disagree that they're working for you. When they agree, they are working for themselves, oftentimes against us. An example, gerrymandering. They both love gerrymandering. An example, tax reform. They both love not having tax reform. Give themselves a raise. They love giving themselves a raise. So time after time after time, when they agree, it's actually bad for the consumer. Do you think that this will spill over into crypto? If they agree, are they passing? I don't mean to trigger you. Bad legislation for crypto here.
Gerrymandering, I'm not that sure about.
Well, they just like redraw. Oh,
very,
God,
very
dang.
great.
I knew
very
it.
Great. Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
Love Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Lee Lewis, great Balls of Fire. Like, there you go. I think that's another great
song.
Gerrymandering. I'm not ringing a bell here. I really sucked you into that one hard. Wow, that was impressive.
You did. Yeah.
You fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Look, here's why I'm going to actually disagree. And this is in the political circles that we swim around in when it comes to regulation and legislation. It has been very apparent that the left has been left out of crypto. And they recognize this and look at that poll. You see, they're actually even more favorable. The left realizes that they've made a big mistake by standing up to crypto, which is something that actually can help with economic disparity and giving out government benefits, like things that are actually pro what they're for. So what we're actually seeing is we're looking at the Republicans dig in and say, oh, no, we're for this because of capitalism and innovation. And now you're starting to see the left come back and say, oh, no, actually, like, we kind of like this, too. We think this is good for all people and it creates fairness and, all the stuff the left stands for. So you're really looking at crypto, just like it doesn't fit into any one niche of regulation. You're also looking at it like it's not fitting neatly into the political boxes and spheres that we've created. And so I know, like, I will tell you that the next two presidential candidates will both be pro-crypto. So I don't think this is positioning in terms of, like trying to do something negative for regulation or legislation. I think it's more that they're actually trying to position themselves to get votes and not be isolated by the crypto community, which is growing quite large. And also, think about this. Who is super pro-crypto? What generation loves NFTs, loves crypto? The Gen Z. The Gen Z, yes, there's some skepticism, especially from the gamers that are in that world. But when you're really looking at people that are growing up in an age of the internet, like the internet wasn't created when I was born. So, it wasn't even around when I was in elementary school. It was in middle school that it started becoming popular, and in high school, it's all you used. So it happened very quickly. Well, when you look at Gen Z and younger generations growing up digitally, who do the younger crowds tend to vote for? Well, that would be the left is where the votes skew for age demographics. So when you take that into consideration, you start to see why the left is coming back. They're not just realizing that they've made a big mistake now. They realize they have made a big mistake that's going to affect them also in the future for a long time to come. So they're just trying to correct that.
I like that. That's a good point with the young, and then, you know, as they say, when you're young, if you don't vote left, you have no heart. When you're old and you don't vote right, you have no brain. That's what they. I don't say that. That's just what they say. All right,
That's a good
Meg.
quote. I agree. With you.
Meg, real quick, I do want to give a shout out. Crypto Billy with the super chat. My advice: buy a JPEG junkie instead. Sounds like pretty good advice to me. All right, Meg, I'm asking you a little insight about our friends north of the border. Are you seeing bipartisan support for crypto, or is it just the side that sides with the truckers? Because, you know, you do have one side kind of has a label of censoring monetary policy. The other side, a little more freedom when it comes to monetary policy. So has the bipartisan support happened, or is it still just the pro-trucker hat?
No,
people?
not too much yet. It is still pretty divided for the most part. I mean, we've got stuff with the government as well, and Trudeau going on right now, and he's kind of come out and said that he's not as positive on crypto. I mean, his brother was Banana Man at Bitcoin Miami, but still the Trudeaus are not that positive about crypto. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because you still talk to some people and they say like it's a scam, and all of the old myths that like we've heard about in the space and kind of we had to get through as well. So I think it's still just miseducation up here. And, you know, the other party who's running against Trudeau now is coming out for Bitcoin and is being positive about crypto. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few years go, but it's definitely still pretty divided up here. But we do have our rules in place for how crypto is taxed and everything and how they see it, as opposed to, you know, you guys down in the States. So we'll see what happens.
Well, you brought up
few
Banana
years.
Man. Do you think the Trudeaus have secret crypto?
I absolutely 100%. There's no way they don't.
Nice.
Come on, DZ.
Nice. Love it.
There's no
Love
way
it.
that most of these officials, whatever country they're in, don't have crypto at this point.
Yeah.
It's
I
gotta
mean,
be there.
we have some pretty good traders on our side of the border too, and I would imagine there's some secret crypto here or there. 'Cause
Definitely.
otherwise, you piss off your constituents, they might show up at your house, you know, with a hammer. Or
Yeah,
something.
they've all
right,
got
that
crypto,
is
let's be honest.
that is all we have time for, and I think Ben came with the fire. He's still mad at Michael Saylor for not laughing at his joke last year.
Always.
So, Ben, feel free, take it away. You even beat the famed Satoshi Nakamoto.
I did it. I couldn't beat Michael Saylor, but I did beat Satoshi Nakamoto. You guys make sure to go follow Caleb and Meg. Everybody on the show, make sure to do that. But guys, want to really drive home, this show is taking off the training wheels. It will be becoming its own channel on YouTube around the blockchain on January 2nd. You will no longer be seeing around the blockchain on this channel. So make sure you guys go subscribe. We're going to let this thing take off and flourish on its own. I mean, it's time. So it's a great show, gives a lot of perspectives. And this is the way that we give back and have other creators. Sometimes we have large creators on, sometimes smaller creators, but we want everybody to, be able to make their opinion known in this space.
And speaking of large creators, we have the creator with the largest calves in the business, Frankie Candles, going live in about 10 minutes. You're going to want to check that out for sure. Until next time, BitSquad, easy out.